like after you've been in remission and it's just this fearful, it's more of a mental health issue that you've sort of moved on. So the cannabis was useful for you physically and mentally, right?
Exactly. So when I was in treatment, I definitely leaned on cannabis to mitigate some of the side effects of cancer treatments. Like you said, chemotherapy, radiation, nausea, sleep, anxiety, pain, all that stuff. And then post cancer, when I was in remission, for me, that was the most difficult part. And that's when my mental health was struggling. And I leaned into CBD and cannabis as a way to free myself from these what if scenarios that I was just talking about and find a little bit more balance in my life. Because we're talking about cannabis here, I'd love for everyone to understand that back in 2009, there was not as much cannabis in the world as we see today.
Yeah.
It wasn't legal in many states, or wasn't medically legal in many states. It definitely wasn't even adult use legal in any state. And I had a really tough time accessing high quality, safe cannabis. Like I was literally on the streets of New York City in a mask, in gloves, bald with chemo, talking to a drug dealer. And like
Wow.
this guy sold not just cannabis, he was selling, the coke and the ecstasy and the mushrooms and all that stuff. And obviously I just wanted the cannabis, but I didn't know where it was coming from, if it was sprayed with pesticides, if it had mold in it, who grew it, how many people stepped on it. So I'm doing an illegal activity on top of an already extremely stressful situation like cancer, just to get medicine to make myself feel better.
Yeah.
And there was not one trained doctor at Sloan Kettering that could teach me about medical cannabis, how to use it, when to use it, what's my dosage, how to ingest it. Like I had to figure that all out on my own, which was not a great scenario, right?
Right. So along with having to do all of that by yourself, I imagine that because of the stigma of using cannabis, especially as an athlete, there weren't that many people that you could talk to about how you were using it, or like back and forth with those ideas about how it might help you.
Correct. Yeah. There was very little peer-to-peer support, I guess you could say. Yeah, there's stuff on the internet, how to make a pot brownie, how to get, so like I didn't smoke anything. I would only cook it because that for me would purify it in a sense that I could kind of put it in an edible to eat. So that was my way of ingesting it. And the good thing about it is I was able to get a lot of the synthetics. The doctors in the hospital, they prescribe you a lot of meds, all prescribed. But this is the height of the opioid epidemic. I was incredibly fearful of becoming hooked on something. And so I was always looking for alternative ways to mitigate the cancer treatments. And obviously cannabis was there for me, and it's grown from the earth. Nature is the world's pharmacy. So I leaned into that a lot, but it was really difficult. It was a really challenging to get information, accurate information, safe cannabis use policies. I couldn't figure it out. So like I said, it was a really challenging time and trying to figure all that out on my own. Had some fun mishaps, which was, but yeah.
I was going to ask, like, doing edibles by yourself and you don't know the potency of this strain. Like, did you have any of those experiences where you're like, oh, I'm too high?
Yeah, I totally had a lot of those experiences. But also the things that worried me is like, how does cannabis like mix with some of the other meds that I'm on? I have some pretty powerful shit. And, there's no one at the hospital that could really educate me on that stuff. And so that's, a lot of what I'm into today is just trying to provide good information and education for those who may want to use cannabis as part of any wellness journey, whether that's cancer or anxiety or pain or sleep, however you want to use it. And so I'm actually there's a company out there called EO.care is the website. I'm going to plug it right now, but they are personalized physician-guided medical cannabis care, and they provide care programs for you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, incredible. Like one of my big things, I think there's a big gap between like medical cannabis doctors and dispensaries. So you got, if you are a medical cannabis patient, you see your doctor, you pay them your $80, $100, $200, they give you your card, and you kind of never see them again. There's no ongoing interaction. So here, a guy like me with cancer, I walk into a dispensary, which is not a hospital, and I talk to a bud tender who's not a doctor, and they're telling me what I should be using for my cancer. Like to me, there's a little bit of a gap there. So what I really love about this company, EO.care, is that there is actually a real person on the other end, and they're providing a care plan for you based on who you are, what meds you're already on, what issues you're facing, what is your best time of day that you can be intoxicated, when maybe you want to use a CBD product versus a THC product, when you want to use a patch versus an inhaler, or a tincture versus an edible. So, and it's an ongoing relationship with a medical care practitioner that is focused on cannabis, and they give you prompts all throughout the day and through the week so they can actually tweak your plan so you're using cannabis optimally. And the best part about it is once you go through your plan, they actually partner with a local dispensary. They pick the products for you and they get them sent to your door. You can pick them up from the shop. So there's taking all the thought about going into, it's scary going into a dispensary sometimes. It's so overwhelming, so many options. It's fun too. But so I'm just like, I went on a little diatribe there, but anyone who's interested in starting to use cannabis or wants some to help them use cannabis more optimally for whatever they're facing, I highly suggest check out EO.care.
That is such a good recommendation. Thank you. I really wish that there had been something like this back in the day as well, because around that same sort of time, like I think for me it was 2013, 2014, and I was living in California, and I had a friend who had cancer, and she was terrified to go to the doctor and talk to her doctor about trying cannabis. And so I would go into the dispensary and I would ask the bud tenders, as somebody with a medical marijuana card. I had it for insomnia, but I was in there like, if somebody had cancer, what would you tell them? And it was all this coded language. And I was really just trying to get information out of them. And they were like, do you need help? And I was like, no, I'm just wondering, and it was so stressful for her to just try and get information. And that's how we had to go around it, was like Chinese whispers, like he said this, she said that, try this strain. I've heard that this works. And just to know that there is now, 10 years on, but there is now a company like EO.care that can really guide you through that sort of stuff. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, I think it's an incredible organization, and they're doing a lot of great stuff, and a lot of incredible folks on the board of directors, and they're running it. Like 40% of cancer patients use cannabis, and 25% more want to use cannabis, but are afraid. And 70% of oncologists won't even have a conversation with their patients about cannabis. So there's a real gap here in the industry. And so, that's kind of why I love showing up for podcasts like today, because I'm able to kind of share, some of the issues that we're facing in the industry, and erase some of the stigma associated with having cancer or being an athlete and using cannabis.
Yeah, incredibly important work. So let's talk now about how you're using cannabis as part of this healthier, happier life. It's not just about the physical, it's about the mental as well. So for you, do you still use cannabis like before I know that you still train for marathons. Do you still use it for that sort of help?
Interestingly enough, I do. Growing up as a competitive athlete, I completely stayed away from it. I tried pot second semester of my senior year of college because I wanted to do something crazy before I graduated, right? Don't tell my mom. So, but now obviously because of cancer, and because I had a really fun partnership with True Leaf Cannabis, and I was a representative of their brand Momenta. And one of our, big projects was I wanted to become the first person to run the Boston Marathon while publicly medicated on True Leaf products. And so for the first time in my life, I had to bring the two together, sports and cannabis, right? And which was pretty fun, to be honest, like to experiment on myself and figure out, what dosage I want to use, when should I use it before my run, how does it affect me on short runs versus long runs. And so the training aspect while using cannabis was really interesting. And I definitely feel that it helped. It helped pre, during, and post workout. And, recovery is a huge part of exercising. And I think cannabis has an incredible role to play in recovery, as well as, I guess, performance enhancing, if we really want to go there. But there were days where I didn't necessarily want to work out, and sometimes I would consume, and it would give me a little bit of energy and get me the inspiration and motivation to go out there and do my training for that day. Other times it definitely helped me through some of the tough moments where you may bonk on the course. Mm-hmm. And I guess my regime for when I'm in action, like in activity, is I will take a tincture probably about 30 to 45 minutes before I exercise. And then when I get into my exercise routine, obviously, I'll start feeling a little bit more. And then depending on how long I'm working out, I might re-up, maybe 45 minutes into my workout as well.
Wow. So you're using it consistently to help help you physically get through something tough like that. Which Boston Marathon did you do high?
This was 2021. Yeah, no, 22.
20?
No, not this last one, the one before. I'm sorry. It was
all right,
2021. Yeah, 2021. So if you...
All the post-pandemic years just sort of mesh together, don't they?
It did, but the funny enough is so when I ran the Boston Marathon for the first time, it was to celebrate being 1 year out of my second stem cell transplant. And this was in 2013, the year the bombs happened. So I was actually pulled off the course at mile 23. So it was really nice to be able to go back 10 years later to celebrate my almost 10-year anniversary of being in remission and run the marathon again, while partnering with True Leave and representing Momenta. So it's pretty fun.
That's so cool. Wow. What a time to be alive. My gosh.
But because of what's happening in professional sports with the NBA, the NFL, the NHL kind of not testing for cannabis anymore, it's opened a big door for sports to use cannabis. So there's a new, I'm not going to say new trend, but there's a trend that I'm seeing in sports and athletes, whether you're a weekend warrior, semi-professional, professional, where people are really using cannabis, like I said, pre, during, and post-workout to help them optimize their exercise. And I think it's pretty cool. And this company, EO, they provide care plans for athletes as well. So if you're an athlete looking to use cannabis for your workouts, they will help advise you and create a plan for you so you are using it properly when you decide to work out.
Very helpful. Wow. So it was not just Michael Phelps this whole time. I knew it.
Right.
He's probably like, see, I knew you all were smoking it. I knew it.
How do you think he won the 8-9 gold medals or whatever he was at?
I don't know if it's performance enhancing or not, but I believe it at least gives you like the mental clarity to keep going with something, right?
Definitely. I absolutely agree. Like ultra marathoners and ultra runners, for me, I felt that, they talk about the zone, getting in the zone. For me, it helped me get to the zone quicker and stay in the zone.
Right.
So that for me personally, it may be different. And I'm not doing any sports where I actually have to think much, like I'm not doing any sports where I have to be coordinated or, use footwork or hand-eye coordination. For me, it's like running, and I can run straight when I'm consuming cannabis or like do some like weightlifting and stuff like that. But if I had to like skate or kick a soccer ball or shoot a basket, I don't know how those guys do it. But for me, running's okay.
I don't know how you would ever aim anything while high, but so another thing that you're working on right now is this university-backed study, and you're looking for participants who also have medical marijuana cards. What exactly are you looking for? If folks want to take part in it, how can they?
Yeah, so right now it's early days in the study, but what we are studying is like to do the first comprehensive study on the effects of cannabis on cancer patients that are in treatment for sleep, anxiety, and pain. And in addition to that, we are looking to see the difference between someone who's on a guided medical plan versus an unguided medical plan. And so we're going to be looking for participants to participate in this study. Obviously, if you are going through cancer or a cancer survivor, we'd be interested in chatting with you to see if you'd want to get on this study.
Cool. And how do people find out about it? Can they reach out to you on your website?
Sure. You can reach out to me. The website, email is ethan@ethanzohn.com. Feel free to shoot me an email to that address and we'll get back to you with some more information.
Awesome. Well, Ethan, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
A huge thanks to our guest this week, Ethan Zohn. Next week, we'll be chatting about cannabis and yoga with Main Ganja Yoga founder, Lindsay Tamposi.
Yoga and cannabis go back together, like to the beginning. There's not really a time that they were separated from one another because cannabis being a plant, it would be considered one of the original teachers. Tantra, the word means tapestry. And there are ancient literal weavings that depict people doing yoga, people practicing different asana and meditating with plants.
Make sure you're subscribed wherever you're listening right now so you don't miss that next episode. And make sure you're following us on social media @DifferentLeaf, and I'm on social media @BritTheBritish. Make sure you've got your summer issue of Different Leaf, the magazine, available now on thousands of